Hello, welcome. Once again, we are joined by Soph from the YouTube channel Curio. I don't know why I'm introducing you, Soph, because everybody knows who you bloody are. Literally all of our subscribers come from you.
That's not true. I've heard the anecdote about the one who didn't.
Okay. Today we're going to be talking about microstates. This is a lovely photo, nothing related to microstates. It's literally just what PowerPoint recommended as a design idea. I thought it was a very pretty photo.
Yeah. Looks to me like microscopic image of skin or something.
Yeah, it does look a little bit like a microscopic.
I mean, what it looks like is like it looks like it's something tiny, but it also kind of looks like a river. And I'm like a micro. Like map, like a state.
I think it works perfectly for the situation.
It's micro.
Actually, good job, PowerPoint, honestly.
Yeah. We're not really talking about, like, microscopic things. We're talking about states as in countries. And let's start off by defining what a microstate is. According to Dumiansky and Zviginov from 2014, which of course I read and didn't just steal off Wikipedia, a microstate is a modern protected state, which means sovereign states who have been unilaterally able to dispute certain attributes of sovereignty to larger powers in exchange for benign protection of political and economic viability against their geographic or demographic constraints. Basically, what that means is it's a small country which has all of its friends who are bigger countries saying, yeah, you're a country.
Right,
just
but it
boost.
relies on those bigger states for it to be like acknowledged as an actual
Yeah,
so it's basically the meme of like the really buff guys and the little tiny nerdy kid. It's like the meme of like the kid being like, hey, I need some advice, I want to be a country, and the big buff dudes are like, don't worry, you're a country.
Oh yeah.
It's basically the state equivalent of trans women or women. What a microstate isn't is this guy. This guy is Jeremiah Heaton, who has a daughter called Emily. She really wanted to be a princess.
Aww.
And so he did what white people do and colonised a bit of Africa.
Yeah.
I rescind my awe.
Just buy a bit of the moon.
Right.
Just like, buy one of those certificates for the moon.
This is a stretch of desert called Bir Tiwal, which is unclaimed by either Egypt or Sudan. It's one of the few places, might even be the only place in the world, which is unclaimed by any country. There are complicated colonial reasons for why neither Egypt or Sudan want Bir Tiwal. If they claim it, then that means they don't claim a bit of land which they actually want.
Right.
Because of old treaties, colonialism stuff. If you want to see a little bit about this, Mapmen did a really great video about this particular stretch of desert called Bir Tiwal, which I'll link in the description down below. It's really, really interesting to watch. But there have been lots of people who are a bit like this guy, Jeremiah Heaton, who have said, I'm making my own country in my backyard, or I'm living on an oil rig, and that's my country. But those aren't considered microstates, specifically because no one recognises them as a state.
Right. Okay.
They're micro.
He's just told his daughter.
But they're not a state.
Like,
yeah, you're a princess.
Yeah.
I doubt even she recognises it, to be honest.
Oh, she's got a crown and everything. She wears a little dress.
Does she?
She's loving it, but she's also like 6 years old, so she doesn't quite understand the cultural significance of taking over a place in Africa.
Yeah, no, it's not her fault. Yeah.
Now we know what a microstate is, let's have a chat about the 5 smallest microstates.
I like your star, Jen.
Do you like my little graphic?
Yeah.
It's good.
It's great, isn't it? I was like, Rachel's always drawing things. I wanted to draw something. I didn't know what to draw,
I
so I
want to
drew
just
a
appreciate
star.
this slide, because I hope that in general people will appreciate effort put into slides.
Let's begin with the 5th smallest microstate in the world, San Marino. San Marino is in Italy, in the Euro 2020 World Cup winners, Italy. Although it's not actually in Italy because it's a country of its own. But it's nestled inside there.
So
It has a
Italy-
population of 32,000 and a size of 61 kilometres squared.
I think there's a Hitman level there.
Yeah. There is.
There you go.
For context, in terms of size, London is 1,569 kilometres squared.
Nice.
Oh. It's really small.
So it's very, very small. Do you know what? One might even describe it as micro.
So,
Town.
Italy, so I knew San Marino was near Italy. I didn't realise it was inside it. So Italy has 2 microstates in it then.
Yes.
At least 2. Who knows?
Maybe
I'm
we'll
no
learn that more.
microstate expert.
Yes. Basically, San Marino is a holdover from the old Italian city-states. So prior to the Italian unification of the 1800s or something, you had lots of little city-states. You had things like Venice and Rome. They were all individual states that just owned a city until Italy as a country was unified together.
That's really cool.
It is said to be the world's oldest democracy, having first started as a democracy in the 1400s or something. And of course, you've got the UK, which had some level of democracy, but this is the longest apparently. It's not a member of the EU, so if you live in San Marino, you don't have EU citizenship. However, it does have open borders with Italy because it's completely landlocked by it. Which means if you are in Italy, you can go into San Marino. If you want to stay for longer than 10 days, you've got to get permission from the Prime Minister or whatever his name
How
is.
they manage that when it's just a little city? That's so ridiculous.
You've got an Airbnb booked for 10 days, and then you got to get an extension.
do that.
Suddenly the Prime Minister comes over for dinner.
You're like, please, Mr. Prime Minister, can
I really
stay?"
want to stay. The water park doesn't open until Sunday. And he's like, no. Get out of my city.
Well, San Marino isn't really a city, really. It's only got a population of 32,000. It's basically a load of hills, a load of mountains, and a few fortress towns. So it's got lots of history, lots of art and stuff. So you can go visit San Marino for a day trip if you're going to Italy. But there's not actually an awful lot of there's probably not an arcade, I would say. That's what defines a city to me, if it has an arcade.
My example of the water park may not be accurate, sadly.
Let's go smaller. We can go smaller.
Oh yeah.
We can go really smaller.
Oh yeah.
Look into my eyes. We're going to go smaller.
Oh yeah. I'm pumped. Let's do it.
This is Tuvalu.
Yeah.
It is a incredibly grainy photo.
I had no idea Tuvalu was that small.
Yeah.
Well, Tuvalu sits in the
Nice.
Pacific Ocean. It is essentially 9 islands, all sort of joined into one nation. The capital of Funafuti, which is this island here, is so small that big black line going through the middle is the airport runway.
Yeah.
So half of the island is taken up by the airport runway.
And
That's
there's just
fucked
this one road that stretches down that long straight bit, and it's that's the
Nice.
Yeah, it's really, really small. It has a population of 10,000 and a size of 26 kilometres squared.
Okay.
So less than half the size of San Marino
I feel like
and a third of the population.
I feel like I'm watching someone fold paper smaller right now. And I'm starting to reach my limit where I'm like, I'm not sure.
yeah.
you can,
How's it gonna get
I'm
smaller
not sure
than
you can
that?
get smaller than that. I don't know if you can fold it more times than that.
Well, we can get much smaller. And actually, Tuvalu is itself getting smaller because of climate change and rising sea levels. It will be gone within a couple of decades because it's just getting eaten away. It's also incredibly difficult to live in Tuvalu at the moment because of climate change.
That sucks.
When it gets hot, it gets hot. It's one of the really sort of distinct bad climate change things that are happening right now. Tuvalu has a colonial history because, of course, it has a colonial history. A lot of these microstates have some kind of colonial history. But going back before the colonial history, there's Polynesian history, so similar to basically all of the Pacific Islands. They've all got very similar Polynesian roots before getting taken over by one of the Western European empires in the 1600s and 1700s.
Some of the Polynesian islands were just colonized by some guy. There are a
Yeah.
bunch of instances of these islands just like some dude just shows up and it's not even on behalf of the crown. Like it's just a guy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, pillaging. You think of colonial history as being about like armies, but often it was just about pirates and pirates being given legitimacy by the Queen.
And always it was about debt every
Yes.
time.
Well, one of the good things about Tuvalu in history is its independence from Britain in 1978, which actually wasn't that long ago.
Yeah, that's
Oh,
not that
no.
long ago.
It's surprisingly recent, and within 80 years it's going to be gone.
I'm registering my
Which
first
is not
oof
great.
on this presentation.
Yeah, that's
Yeah. Well, prepare for some more oofs.
Yay!
Because the third smallest microstate in the world is Nauru.
Whoa.
This is a single picture of the entirety of Nauru. It is another Pacific island, as you can see, sitting just north of where Tuvalu is. It has a size of 21 kilometers squared, which is about the same size as Tuvalu, and a population of 9,500, which is about the same as Tuvalu as well. Similar to Tuvalu as well, it has a colonial history, because of course it does, because it's a Pacific island. Originally, actually, German colonial, well, it was British colonialism, and they sort of traded it with Germany,
So we could do.
as they do. And it was a bit of a pirate hub as well, as you've said, that like a lot of pirate stuff happened. So though pirates had a tendency to go to Nauru and, you know, do stuff with their booty and all that kind of stuff.
Me and the boys after the vaccine.
So Nauru had a civil war in 1888, and they got most of the guns for this civil war from pirates. So pirates sold their guns to these Nauruan people. The king of Nauru being supported by Germany, and the rebels not being supported by any colonial power.
Makes sense.
This civil war killed 600 people, which was the equivalent of 1/3 of the population of Nauru at the time.
That's so grim when it's such a tiny population. They're literally
Yeah,
just
that
like
really sucks.
it's literally just like the German army giving weapons to this like one guy who wants to maintain power over this little group of people. Like that sucks.
Yeah, it's really, really nasty. And then Nauru was one might say cursed, because in 1900 they found phosphate. Phosphate was used in fertilizer mostly, but you can also, I think you can also use phosphate for bombs and stuff as well.
Yeah.
And obviously because colonialism,
Yeah.
a lot of damage was done to the island specifically for phosphate farming. Or mining, not farming.
Yeah, there's this like phenomenon in geography that they call like the resource curse or the Dutch disease, which is basically just the curse of colonialism, because they make it out to be something like, oh, if a country has loads of natural resources, it's cursed to loads of war, and it's like no, it's cursed to European imperialism. Like specifically,
Right.
Yeah, or American.
Yeah, yeah. Nauru had some playtime, I guess. In World War II, Japan invaded it and built a massive fortress on Nauru. But eventually, post World War II, they did get independence in 1968, and they still had quite a lot of phosphate when they gained independence. So for a time, Nauru was amazingly rich. Like, it was one of the richest countries in the world, similar to like how Dubai is really rich at the moment because of the oil. However, as that phosphate dried up, as they sort of ran out of phosphate to mine, it's become increasingly reliant on Australia for financial support.
Right. I know of Nauru as the place where Australia sends all its refugees to get rid of them. That's Yes. So Australia now uses Nauru essentially as a dumping ground for their refugees. Yeah, it's really...
And it's considered one of the worst places a refugee could be sent. Like horrific conditions. There's some really, really interesting articles if you are looking to read that kind of thing. But it is quite heavy, so I maybe wouldn't recommend it if you're not feeling great. But definitely worth reading it if that's the sort of thing you want to read about. It all goes up. It all goes away from this sort of horrific colonial past now, because the second smallest microstate in the world is Monaco. Ooh, look at that. That is a picture of Monaco from the hill surrounding it, sitting on the border of Italy and France.
Oh my god!
It's another one in Italy. What the hell?
It's on the border. It's on the border of Italy and France. It has a size of 2 kilometers squared, which is like 10% of the size of Nauru. So it's really, really small. But it has a population, a full population of 37,000.
Right.
It's pretty dense.
That's really, really dense, isn't it? 2 kilometers squared, by the way, is the same size as Central Park in New York.
Oh, wow.
Wow! Holy shit!
Monaco is mostly known for F1. Mostly known by everyone for F1, and also the scene in Iron Man 2 where Iron Man has the briefcase suit, and Whiplash is like, "Whoosh!"
Yeah.
And they're like, for some reason he can drive the F1 car,
Yeah.
and
Elon
no
Musk
one really
is
knows
there.
why.
It's great.
It's a weird scene, but a great scene. Elon Musk is there, yeah. Oh, what a great film! One of my favourite films.
Of course, Elon Musk's in Iron Man.
Yeah. Monaco's main industry is tax evasion.
Yeah, that makes sense. That's why it's a microstate still. Okay, there we go.
Yes.
That explains it all.
30% of Monaco's people are millionaires.
Oh my god. Oh my god.
An incredibly large...
That's too many.
And the rest live there to serve those millionaires. Like, that's...
Basically.
God damn it.
There is 0 income tax in Monaco, but there's quite a high corporation tax. So you wouldn't set up a company in Monaco, but you might live in Monaco to get all your money sent to you.
Nice.
They make quite a lot of revenue from gambling. There's a heavy gambling industry specifically because it makes quite a lot of money and quite a lot of corporation tax. Obviously, that makes Monaco basically a port city entirely full of incredibly rich people who gamble a lot of money.
Cool.
Yes, It's a fun place. I'm sure everyone wants to visit Monaco.
Well, now we all know where to go to steal.
I was thinking sugar daddies.
Equally.
Yeah, let's go find a sugar daddy.
Yeah.
Sugar parents
You
more
can
generally,
incorporate
but I
these
think
two-
when I say the word parents, it...
Makes it too gross. No, don't do that, Rach.
You
Yeah.
can incorporate these two plans together. You can allegedly be finding a sugar daddy and then just steal everything.
Yeah, do both.
It's chill.
Yeah.
Why not both?
Yep.
What do you think the smallest microstate is then?
I think it's in Italy. I think it's specifically in Rome. It's
Okay.
within the city of Rome. I believe it's going to be Vatican City.
That's a solid guess.
Yeah.
You're correct.
Whoa!
Wow, look at that. That's Vatican City.
Whoa!
I know. Vatican City, as you said, in Rome. It has a size of 0.44 kilometers squared. That is
Oh, wow.
1/4 the size of Central Park.
It's just like a compound.
Has a population of 900 people. Yeah, it has a population of 900 people. Mostly cardinals. About half of them are cardinals, and the rest are their security and their security's family.
Right. It's like basically a palace where the Pope and all the staff and all the staff's family live.
Right.
And then like a
Basically.
courtyard where all the Catholics can come if they want to hear the Pope speak.
Yeah.
You will not believe this. It's only existed as a country or a state since 1929.
Oh.
Oh, I didn't
That's
know
really
that.
that's like really recent,
Yeah,
right?
I assumed it would be like...
I was surprised
So
by that.
who made
fact.
that decision?
So Vatican City existed essentially as Italy existed as the papal states for 1,000 years. The seat of power being the Pope, and the Pope had a lot of political power at the time, in contrast to what we would consider the Pope now. And the popes primarily ruled from a place called the Quiral Palace, which isn't in Vatican City.
Oh.
It's actually sort of like a couple of miles down the road from Vatican City. As Italy became unified in the 1800s, skipping things like San Marino and the other place that I mentioned where I was going, Monaco, that's the one I was thinking of. Skipping those places, Italy got completely unified, and the Pope lost loads of power. The Pope was essentially living in limbo as to what the Pope was and what role the Pope had in Italian and world politics. From about 1888 until until Vatican City was made in 1929. Essentially, what they did was, as the Papal State started to get dismantled by Italian unification, the Pope fled into Vatican City, and the new Italian state didn't want to, execute the Pope because the Pope was still a religious figure. But the Pope lost a lot of the political power. And essentially what they did was say, okay, you get this little enclave that is yours. You get to own it, it's yours. But you don't have any political power outside it. And you're entirely a religious figure from now on.
Right.
And the Pope, because
we don't have to kill you
get...
because we've put you in this little...
Yeah. So it's essentially a massive prison.
Ah.
Huge Pope prison.
Yeah. Obviously, I would imagine that the current Pope wouldn't feel like that, but maybe 1928 Pope would think that. So, technically, the Vatican City is a democracy. Because they vote for the Pope, who is the leader, like
a total democracy, because they all have a little cheeky vote. What about the families?
The Pope is essentially the king.
What about the families of the people who work there?
That's the thing. They don't have. But there are people in other places we would consider democracies that don't get to vote, like immigrants or prisoners.
Yeah.
And a really interesting fact I found out about Vatican City is it has an 8-team football league and a national football team, both women's and men's.
That's fun.
Wow.
Can you believe that? 8 people. Mostly it's people who are employees of the church.
Yeah.
So it's like security guards and people who do like clerical work and, their social media manager.
I was just imagining all these like old men running around in robes. So that was entertaining.
No, it's not Cardinals. Cardinals aren't allowed to play.
I want Vatican City to crush at the Euros now.
Well, despite the fact they do have a national team, they are not allowed by the Pope to compete in those sorts of big. They're not allowed to compete in the World Cup. They're not allowed to compete in the Euros, even though technically they kind of probably could compete in the Euros.
Come on, Pope, you son of a bitch! Give us what we want.
So Pope is like, you can have this. You can have this little football team as a little tree. But you're not allowed to have competition and stuff. It's not allowed to be a financial thing. It's all about encouraging young Catholics to get up and exercise.
I think the Pope should let them compete so that the Vatican City football team can win the World Cup and convert everyone to Catholicism with their crushing victory. 18-0 because God was on their side,
right?
And then everyone's just like,
that's why they can't compete, because if they lose, it proves something.
Yeah, it proves that football is a godless heathen hobby.
So, the question is, do you have a favourite microstate?
Tuvalu. Definitely. 100%
They
Tuvalu.
all exist for kind of
by a
bad
big
reasons.
margin.
That's...
I watched a travel vlog to Tuvalu, and it seems like a gorgeous place with gorgeous people, and I hope they find the security that they need through the disasters of climate change.
My favourite microstate is the future glorious People's Republic of Intercoastal Eggborough, the united mass of York, Leeds, Sheffield, Liverpool, Manchester, Wolverhampton, Birmingham, and of course the tiny village of Eggborough, from which they all get their name. I think this will be the best microstate when it happens, and it secedes from England.
I think that'll be a bit bigger than anything on this list.
It'll be called Exit.
Exit.
It should just be called Exit because you can't be Brexit.
Right.
I know where things are mostly because I've spent a lot of time learning to name all of the countries on Sporkle. I don't know that I could do it now, but so So Jen's just listing all the tiny little countries that always would trip me up on Sporkle, like all the little ones that I'd forget. And I'd be like, I forgot San Marino again.
Nice.